When you watch high-level players play, you'll see that they use their whole body as part of their swing to create racket head speed. And this is what lets them hit with so much power and spin while still maintaining control and accuracy. Whereas when you watch most rec and club level players, a large percentage of them have a tendency to overly utilize their arm. So instead of using the legs and the torso to initiate the swing, they tend to arm the ball. And this firstly prevents them from hitting with optimal power, but also when they do try and hit with power, it tends to cause them to make too many unforced errors. Now, because you're watching this video, the chances are you already understand the importance of using your whole body during your swing. But the problem is you haven't been able to make it happen consistently when you're playing. So the question is why? That's what I'm going to be answering in this video, and I'm going to be explaining a step-by-step process that you can use to develop a more efficient swing on both your forehand and backhand. The underlying reason why you're arming your shots is because you're starting your swing too late relative to the speed of the ball and to the speed of your swing. But realistically, we can only swing at a certain speed. So what it means is that you're starting your swing too late because the ball is traveling at whatever speed it's traveling at based on the shot that your opponent hits. As it travels towards me, my job is to get prepared and set up in position in time, and it's then to start my swing soon enough to efficiently use my kinetic chain, because I'm going to be driving through my hip followed by my torso. As I do that, it's going to create the racket lag, so it's going to stretch my chest and it's going to stretch my forearm, and by stretching those muscles we store energy in them, which then allows us to quickly contract them and swing the racket through to contact. So we're trying to turn our body into a whip. Well, what you'll see is that the contact point is going to be somewhere out in front of the body, dependent on the grip I use, dependent on whether I have a bent or a straight arm on my forehand, dependent on the height of the ball. The contact point is going to be a little bit different, but it's going to be somewhere out in front of the body. Well, if I start my swing too late, my brain recognizes that. It knows that I can't use the full kinetic chain because I'm going to meet the ball out there. So what it has to do is it then has to compensate. So instead of using my full body, I then just have to use my arm to bridge the gap. And it's going to be exactly the same whether you're hitting the forehand, two-handed backhand, one-handed backhand, or slice. Obviously the mechanics look a little bit different, but the underlying problem that you've got to fix is that you're starting your swing too late. Now, unfortunately, it's easier said than done to simply start your swing earlier and use your kinetic chain efficiently, because there are underlying reasons why players can't start their swing soon enough. So what you need to do is record yourself to identify what the underlying thing is that you need to focus on to fix the problem. And when you record yourself, you want to do it playing points or playing a match, because when players record themselves on a ball machine or they record themselves with a coach feeding them, they know exactly where the ball's going and they're able to compensate. But then when they get into a match, that's when the real problems start. So record yourself playing points so you can figure out what exactly you need to work on. So the first thing you might need to work on in order to be able to start your swing earlier is your preparation. A lot of players don't prepare and set up in the right position in time, and that then causes them to start their swing late. Now, when it comes to preparation, there's going to be a couple of things that are really important. Firstly, getting into position in time. So generally, we want to be getting into position just before the ball bounces, or at least as the ball bounces. It can't always happen depending on what shot our opponent hits, but that's going to be a general guide. And then in terms of the position, we want to make sure that we're getting that upper body unit turn done. So we're coiling our body and storing energy in our torso, and then we're loading the back or outside leg. And by loading, I mean bending the leg a little bit and twisting the belly button in towards the leg. This then gets us into position that we can then use to unrotate to create the forward swing and the racket head speed. So it's going to be the same for the forehand and the backhand. Obviously it looks different, but the principles are the same. We've got to make sure that we load the back or outside leg, rotate the upper body, so then we can use them as part of our forward swing. So record yourself to identify if this is something you need to work on or not. And then there might be a few different things you need to work on in order to fix late preparation. The first one is actually your recovery after the previous shot. A lot of players, they ball watch after they hit their shot. They don't recover with enough intensity, so they don't get back into the correct position. And because of that, they're then not ready to start to prepare and set up for their next shot. So that might be something you need to focus on. Potentially, you're not doing a split step. The idea of a split step is that we land just after our opponent makes contact. Ideally, we can read where the ball's going, so then we can use the elastic in our muscles to prepare more quickly. So if you're not doing a split step, that might be something you need to focus on. Or you might need to work on specific footwork patterns, because it's common for players to be able to prepare quickly on an easy ball, like I said, maybe if a coach is feeding them, or on a ball machine. But when the ball is more varied, when they're playing points and they have to get into different positions, then they're not able to prepare quickly enough. So that might be something you need to work on. And then another thing that could be causing late preparation is simply not being able to quickly and accurately read the flight of the ball properly because your visual system doesn't work well enough. That's something you can actually change and improve with training. And if you'd like to learn more about that, I've got a class that's going to teach you about it. I'll leave a link to that down in the description. Now, once you've solved the problem of preparation and you're setting up in the right position in time for the majority of your shots, this is actually where the real fun begins, because unfortunately timing is just one of the hardest things in tennis, because every single shot that you ever deal with is slightly different, and that means you have to adjust when you start your swing for every single shot. So the speed that the ball is traveling at, the height, the arc on the ball, whether it's topspin or slice, how much spin they hit with, the type of court surface, all these things are going to influence when you start your swing. So it's a challenge that you basically have to spend the whole of your tennis life working on and trying to improve gradually and over time. And this is something that I've really gone through recently myself. I'm naturally a right-handed player, but I've been relearning to play left-handed, and timing is obviously one of the hardest parts of the game. So what I have done to get to the point where I'm at now, where I'm playing pretty decent tennis, is I started out with a lot of ball machine work where I would feed myself a specific feed. So I might start with an easy neutral stance forehand, and then I would try and hit the shot. And if I got good timing, then great. But if I didn't get good timing, and I generally didn't at the start, I was generally late and I was arming the ball, I would then think about when the ball bounced, and I would think about starting my swing sooner. And for me, when I think about the swing, I think about driving through the back hip to initiate the swing. You might want to think about rotating your torso. There's different options of what you can think about, but for me, I think about driving through my hip. So if I'm working on this neutral stance forehand and I'm starting my swing, driving through my hip as the ball bounces, and I end up being a little bit late and having to arm it, I then have to think, okay, on the next ball, I'm going to start my swing just before the ball bounces. So that hopefully adjusts things forwards, so then I can get better timing, and now I've got room and space to use my full kinetic chain. And then I would change the type of feed, and I would practice different feeds until I was able to get decent timing on different types of feeds. And then I would work with practice partners and just play with people, and then try and carry it over from the ball machine work to working with people. So it was a bit of a process, but it enabled me to get to a pretty decent level. Now, if you don't have access to a ball machine, you've just got to do the best that you can, but it's about building up a memory bank of when the ball is flying like this, or the ball has this amount of topspin or slice, when do I need to start my swing relative to the bounce of the ball. Now, often you're going to be thinking about starting your swing as the ball bounces. So a normal rally ball, that's often going to be a good starting cue, but sometimes it will vary from that. So if your opponent hits the ball hard and low and deep, you might potentially have to start your forward swing before the ball bounces. If the ball is high and floaty, potentially you might have to start your swing just after the ball bounces. So there's no perfect solution. It really is a case of lots of practice, kind of thinking it through in real time. And like I said, the way I did it on the ball machine was very effective for me. So if you haven't tried it, I highly encourage giving it a go. There's a couple more things that you might need to work on in order to be able to fix timing problems so that you can efficiently use your kinetic chain. The first one is going to be how well your visual system functions. I've already mentioned this in relation to preparing and setting up in time, because you've got to be able to quickly and accurately read the flight of the ball, but that's also going to be important for swing initiation as well. A lot of players can't judge distance and depth and speed to the level that they need to in order to be able to play tennis at a high level. So if that's going on with you, you have to improve how your visual system's functioning, because if you can't read how far the ball is away, you're never going to be able to make the adjustments that you need to. And then the other thing is going to be your level of coordination. When you're playing tennis, It all depends on what you see, but you then have to turn that visual information into a movement command. So you have to tell yourself to start your swing at the right time, and then you have to sequence your kinetic chain in the right way and sequence your kinetic chain at the right speed. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and I find that a lot of adult tennis players simply don't have good enough coordination in order to do what they need to do as well. The good news again, though, is that you can improve both your vision and your coordination using brain-based training. And I've got that class that's down in the description. It's called the Neuro Tennis Masterclass. So if you want to learn more about it, I highly encourage watching that. But hopefully everything that I've covered in this video makes sense. You always want to record yourself to find out what your underlying problem is. But we know if you're arming your shots, it's to do with your timing, you're hitting the ball late. So it's then a case of, do you need to focus on fixing your preparation, or do you need to focus on the timing aspect and starting your swing sooner? And whichever one it is, focus on it, work at it, lots of repetitions, and make gradual improvements over time. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Any questions or comments, leave them down below, and I'll catch you next time.